welcoming to the show, Nathan Wallace, stand-up comedian.
How's it going, man?
I'm delightful. How about yourself?
Oh, doing good, man. Just it's the super moon, so everybody's like acting crazy right now. So it's just been a wild couple of days.
And you're always very just constantly chatting on Instagram and uploading videos of your stand-up.
Yeah, I do that as much as I can. It's if anything, I found the hardest part about comedy is social media, dude.
Yeah,
It
telling
it
people I
makes
exist.
Yeah, exactly. It's like without it, there was a time just shortly before I started comedy where they didn't even have to do social media. You went to the clubs knew who you were, and you knew you were known in the community. But now, without social media, the clubs don't even want to look at you. So
Yeah, you could do some talent show and get some exposure there instead of rely on talk shows.
yeah, it's just like before it was TV. Now it's just how many followers do you have? You know.
Yep. So uh, I was digging some of your various clips, and I get a very observational kind of comedy feel from it, a mixture of food, family, and just other kind of just workplace tropes. But how would you describe your style and your various inspirations?
Oh, my style? Ugh, I don't even know, dude. You know what my style is? Is just me having a good time. First off, if I don't think it's funny, it's not going up there. And it's just me having a good time and pointing out things and just, I mean, literally, I've been a plumber for 24 years, and when I do comedy, that is me being able to be me, not worried about the family and the job and all the
Mm-hmm.
things. It's like that's how it originally started. I just was like so sick of plumbing. Some people would call it a midlife crisis. I guess I started when I was 33, and I just like
That's not bad though.
no, it wasn't bad. I went and did open mic. I did very well. I got my second show was a paid show, which is unheard of.
Mm.
Yeah, so I was doing pretty well with it. And it was just it's the thing that made me okay. Like I felt like I was doing me finally, and then I think through that, just for the fact that I was doing it for the pure joy of it, is why I kind of took off the way I did. Now I'm in no means famous, I'm known. I'm pretty well known around. I've been on TV a couple times and stuff like that. But I think in 7.5 years, I've done a lot, and that's just because of my love for it. I think. So as far as like what kind of comic I am, I think I'm still figuring that out. Just recently I did a storytelling show, and
Oh,
yeah, it was nice. It made me realize that I could just go up there with stories from my life and make people laugh. So that was pretty cool.
sweet. Uh, did you go to any acting or theater school?
I was in drama for 4 years during
Hey,
school.
look at you go. That's not bad.
Yeah, no, I was Dimitri in Midsummer's Night Dream. I was the boy who was asked to turn blue, and then various other characters through plays. But I never like when I got out of high school, I was never like, oh, I'm gonna be in. Actually, I take that back. My AV where I was going, the AV teacher gave me a half ride to Full Sail.
Ah,
But yeah, I didn't have at that time. I didn't have the other half. You know what I'm saying? So,
gotcha.
so I didn't go.
Also, I'm seeing a trend here. It seems like this goes with any job market, but it seems like you'll have. It's like the more diverse you are, the more you can have just more opportunities. But it gets a little disheartening when one time they're looking for this skill set, but then they're not looking for this other skill set.
I will
You know what I
say,
mean?
yeah, no, I get you on that. There was a couple times where I got disheartened. I really don't get disheartened that much, man, because I it's just super fun for me. I get disheartened when I get disrespected, maybe, but then that
Oh
does
yeah.
happen in the community. It happens just because, unfortunately, there's always going to be bias in everything. Just because you're the best at something doesn't mean you're going to be the one that gets chosen. You
There's
know,
always someone insecure who wants to pick on the other guys. Yeah.
I don't know if it's secure. I'm saying more like it falls down into the whole it's who you know, not what you know situation.
Oh,
So
fair enough.
if the people at the top are biased and they're gonna pick who they choose, even though maybe that person isn't the one, but they just really like them. They click with them, and so in that time, it's hurt a couple times from that, especially in competitions. But short of that, I'm just really happy to do it, and now I actually make money at it, so that's nice. I've been making pretty good money, and
Hmm.
nothing crazy. I still almost show a loss every year, but at least I'm not like the first 2 years. I would sleep in my car. I would,
Oh
you
man,
know, my second year of comedy, I was negative $8,000. I lost $8,000 doing comedy,
I'm sorry.
and no, I mean, there's no reason to be sorry. It was a chasing a dream. Think about people who go to college to do something.
Yeah.
They lose $200,000.
Oh yeah, and just very unreasonable. Like,
Yeah. So I mean, it's like so. If you want to do something, you're gonna have to pay. You're gonna have to pay the dues. I mean, that's just how it works in this country. I mean, in general. So.
hmm yeah. And what comedy clubs have you been to, and which states?
I work every comedy club in Florida,
All
and then
right, sweet.
that's Off the Hook, McCurdy's, the Improvs, Porky's, LOL, all these things, Madcaps, Off the Hook. Off the Hook's kind of become my home club recently. That's down in Naples, Florida. My home club used to be the Laugh and Comedy Cafe in Fort Myers. I was the house MC for a year there, my first year, and
Wait.
but they changed owners. So
Hmm.
after it became a little more corporate. So when that happened, Brian Spina, a great guy, he some people aren't fans, but I think he's a good guy, and he's been giving me whatever spots I want down there at Off the Hook. So that's been working out. And outside of the state, I do all kinds of stuff. I just got back from the Bahamas. I was in the Bahamas for 2 weeks doing the Joker's Wild in the Atlantis Resort.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll be in the South Point Hotel in Vegas in September. Heading to Austin in September. I got Dallas, Pennsylvania. I, I like the South is where I prefer to work.
Hmm.
Uh, just because it's warm. I don't like the cold.
Oh, fair enough.
So yeah, so I like to go wherever it's warm, and that's about it. I went to Colorado for a week doing shows one time, and by like the third day, I was screaming at people. I was like, you don't have to live here, right? You can you
Go
can go
somewhere
to the
else.
warm. Yeah, exactly. Where are
uh,
you out of?
I'm not too far. I'm in Dallas, Texas, but yeah. Other than Hyenas Comedy Club, I've been kind of a little disheartened just seeing kind of too many has been. Not to sound like smack talking. There was either kind of lately kind of a mixture of comedians going out of their way to kind of be controversial, like I'm on a canceled tour, or even people kind of doing various like they just kind of got a lot of has-beens lately, and I was like, let me know when you're actually kind of ready to just send some big name talents like from Mad TV or Who's Line.
I love I love that your big name talents are from Mad TV.
Well, I mean,
You're like, that show that was on 25 years ago.
25, yeah, way too late.
You know what? I don't like has-beens. I want guys from the Mad TV show.
Yeah.
Those guys are in their 60s now.
Well, like they had people who were just like kind of had okay, so putting it lightly, they have kind of become noted for kind of running out of material, if you will. So like I wasn't just kind of tempted to go see them, but I'm not saying that's the case with all of them. There's plenty of others who come by through there. Uh, Harry Spears would come through there. Pablo
Very funny.
Francisco. There's room for everybody. I just I'd prefer if they did more than just open mic nights and actually kind of had just a few other just kind of ensembles there. But it's changing, and I hope it keeps getting better. But
I'll be in Dallas September 20th and 21st.
sweet,
Yeah, I'm there with Henry Cho. I'm opening for Henry Cho.
very cool.
Yeah, so I think you have a theater there, like a comedy theater there, I think.
Yeah, there's the Addison and Arlington Improv, and then there's plenty of other ones. But
Yeah, yeah. There's something
Hyenas is
I can't even remember what it is. It's a theater. It's not the comedy club. It's the theater there.
huh.
But a lot of that happened to a lot of comedy clubs. Whenever after COVID hit, they just kind of lost the money to bring in the big names, and then people they just stopped kind of going. Oh, did you just hear that? It's my son out there. Yeah, but
Kind of.
no, could you hear it? It was like a.
I just literally heard just a whoosh, like a car.
Okay, yeah. He thinks he's a dinosaur. So.
Oh, nice. Hey,
Yeah.
have you ever thought of joking about dinosaurs and creature features and horror movies in your acts?
No, not yet. I mean, I really don't know. The jokes just kind of come. I see something I think it's funny, and then I'll work on it for a little bit. I write a little bit differently. Most comics like sit down and write, in a book. I don't do that. I have about 2 hours of material that's just written in my head, and how I keep track of it, I don't know. I've never been able to keep track of anything like that in my life. But for some reason, jokes, I can just keep them. I don't know. I write them, and I actually write them in my head. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but there are quite a few comedians that I've met that are exactly the same way. So
No, that's a good point. It, when you latch onto it, it's like it's got to be said, it's got to be performed somehow.
exactly, yeah. I usually in the performance of it, I'm writing it.
It's
Then
no
I'll
different
go
than
up.
writing a speech or an apology from, I don't know, just doing a toast to someone. It's like, I want to say this and I know when and where, and I'm going to own it. I'm going to absolutely dominate it that night.
Exactly.
Uh, who are some other comedians you followed growing up, or who, even if they didn't necessarily inspire you, you just would see every show they were doing, either on Showtime or HBO or just at a live event?
What's funny about that is that Henry Cho. Henry Cho. When I was a kid, he's a clean comic, so we were allowed to watch him when I was a kid.
Yeah.
We'd watch him with the family, and we all loved Henry Cho. And then he comes to the Laughing here in Fort Myers, and I just happened to be hosting for him, and he took a liking to me, man, and he's been taking me around. I mean, he's given me more opportunities than anyone. I mean, a lot of people have given me good opportunities, but this guy has taken me and put me in front of the people,
That's
the people
cool.
that matter. So yeah, it was pretty cool to meet someone that you always looked up to, and then he was so awesome, and then was like liked me too, and took me along with him. So it's pretty cool. He actually took me for one joke. It was one joke he liked, and it was I read an Amelia Earhart book. It said in there that she had a male co-pilot, which blew my mind because that means she didn't even trust women to fly, you know. And the joke since then has like moved on, and it's a big long joke that I tell now. But that was just the joke when I met him, and he thought that was so funny.
That's
And
cool.
yeah, I know. It's just weird how you meet somebody like that. And that's in, like I said, I'll be in Dallas with him, and we're going to
Been a minute
Vegas.
since I've seen that stand up you did. What's that clicking noise?
Yeah, exactly. It's funny. He does like a questionnaire at the end of a show, and everyone still asks, "Do clicking noise? Do clicking noise?" They
Do the
just love
clicking
that joke.
noise.
Do the clicking noise, man. They love this joke. I mean, that dude could still tell that first set, and everybody would be okay with it.
That's
That's
cool.
what's wild about it. Yeah, he just actually he was just the 50. He was the first comic inducted into the Grand Ole Opry in 50 years.
Hmm.
Yeah, they just did that as like three,
Well,
4 months
good to
ago.
get
He got
some kind of
inducted.
accolade.
Oh, that's a huge accolade. I mean, he's the first comic in 50 years to be inducted in the Grand Ole Opry. It's pretty impressive. So
Right?
yeah, that's the first time I asked that. I said, what's the? I said, do you get to go to a special like waiting room, or you got like a? He's like, yep. He's like special break room. And could you imagine who's in there? It's got to be like Reba McEntire, all these big names in there. It's going to be crazy. So,
I'm sure there's something,
yeah,
yeah, someone
yeah.
who he's worked with for years.
I used to like too was Gallagher. I was a big fan of Gallagher,
Hmm.
and I'd seen him twice at the Barbary Man, smashing the fruit, and all this. And then you just like that when you're a kid in that age group. And then I got to meet him. Actually, I got to work with him. I opened for him for a weekend, and at
Wait.
the end of the weekend, I go up to him. I go, listen, man, I've loved you forever. Da da da. And this is my favorite joke that you used to tell. And he goes, that isn't my joke. And
Eh.
I was like, no, that's your joke. So why am I arguing with this guy? I'm telling you, he's like, that's not. I was like, it's your joke, bro. And he's like, okay. And he just walks away. And I looked it up. It was George Carlin. Bummer. That was,
Kabang.
yeah. Oh yeah. Talk about, yeah, foot in the mouth. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, what do they call that nowadays? Pwned, owned.
I don't know what it was. I still call it foot in the mouth. I just, yeah. He died shortly after that, so he just died hating me. That's wonderful. It's
Oh,
probably on his
man.
deathbed. He was like, "Screw Nathan Wallace." Yep.
Oh man. So uh so you're going to a lot of the big giant stand-up shows and everything, and like you say, it does seem hard to kind of ride the line between just doing over the top comedy versus more clean PG-13 esque humor. Why do you think it's just so hard for people to kind of just get a sense of how they promote their kind of comedy? Like, I'm not even talking just edgy or being over the top versus doing something that could be cancel worthy, but like just showing this is my brand, this is what I do, you know what to expect from me, and not always having social media on your side.
Well, I think with comedy, people do really try to brand themselves. There's a lot of people that just really want to. This is my brand. This is what I am. Finding out what you are is the hardest part of it.
Mm-hmm.
If they call it finding your voice. And I think the guys that really have a really strong brand are the guys who are just themselves. They're just being themselves, and by being themselves, they've created a brand of them. So then at that point, it no longer is it hard to be that person all the time and show and keep that brand steady. And you know, growth. Your band is going to change. A perfect example of that is for me is Bill Burr. When he first started out, his brand, he was so angry, and it was hilarious and it was so funny. And you could tell as he got along. I mean, heck, in the last special he did, the Red Rocks, he almost cried. I think he did cry.
Hey,
So
but at least he had a sigh of relief just showing, hey, I put on a show.
exactly. Well, I mean, he cried about a thing, with his daughter. And so it's just, if you are true to you, which is the hardest thing to be, because everyone's telling what you should be. And when I first started, I when I worked at the Laugh-In for that year, the guy there was straight up about clean comedy. So he was very adamant about me being clean all the time. And so I became that person, and it was good, but it wasn't exactly who I am. I'm not a person that's sitting there running around dropping the F-bomb constantly and doing these things. I try to never say it on stage, even when I'm doing dirtier sets. But I am an adult. I am a man. I am from the 90s. You know what I'm saying? So, like,
Mm-hmm.
I have this side about me that not only is a little dirtier, but wants to speak about real things. I don't want to sit there and sugarcoat you and be like, oh, my son, this, which I do talk a lot about my family and things, but I would prefer to talk about real. I'd prefer to be real. And
Right.
so when you mix all that stuff together, eventually you hope that you find your voice. I think I'm getting closer to it. That definitely that storyteller show helped me a lot because it was the first time I went up there with just like ideas and just stories from my life and just told them truthfully for what they are, and was able to get a lot of laughs and just have a great time that night. And so that moved me in a different direction. So like the first question you came out with, like, what kind of comic do you think you are? I think I'm still working on that. I know I'm funny. I've proven that over and over and over and over again. But as far as what exactly I am, I think I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm not sure
That's
because
true, though. It's hard to find a proper in between.
I like being clean. Like when I'm with Henry Cho, it's a squeaky clean show. I have to be
Mm-hmm.
squeaky clean. Uh, if I go, so a lot of times what I'll do when I'm headlining a weekend, the early show will be a clean show, and then the late show will be a dirty show. That's how I think it should be a lot of times. But it's not like that. I mean, I have all these sets, and the reason I have clean and dirty too is because when I first started out, I wanted to do cruise ships. I thought I'm 33.
I could kill
Uh,
it.
well, the reason, what I was thinking is I'm 33, and everybody's telling me it takes 15 to 20 years to become a comedian, which wasn't the same for me. I was able to kind of break out of the box very quickly, and now I'm headlining. I'm headlining 80 shows a year.
Nice.
And yeah, so and I'm featuring 150 of them. So it's like I was able to break out quickly. So in my mind, I was like, okay, think about cruise ships because you're going to be old by the time you're any good. So let's write clean and let's write dirty. So I would write one clean joke and one dirty joke, and one clean joke and one dirty joke, because you have to have both in order to do cruise ships. So, and that's
Nice.
just kind of how the set came together. And now I have all this stuff, but I do lean towards the adult stuff more. I just like, I'm an adult. I'm 40 years old. You know what I'm saying? I like to talk like adults. It doesn't,
Hmm.
that doesn't mean being gross. It doesn't mean being over the top. It
Same
just
here.
means,
We use language, but we're just using just like figure of speech, like someone's being a jerk or something, instead of, hey, get as X-ray as you can. It's like, no, we're not trying to offend anyone
yeah, exactly. Or even like, just
or be gross.
adult topics, in general.
Hmm.
I'm loving this joke I just wrote recently, and it's kind of where I'm leaning. It's just like my son asked me how the government works. I took him outside. I put a blindfold on him. I gave him a stick. I spun him in a circle, and then had him swing at a pinata that wasn't even there.
Oh wow.
After a while, he pulled the blindfold off, and I was eating the candy. And he goes, "I want some of that candy." I said, "I'm sorry, buddy. I sent the rest of it to the Ukraine."
Oh.
He said, "I'm telling mom." So I went on Twitter and called him a liar. And that's how the government works.
There you go.
And that's the kind of stuff I want to talk about. Just adult subjects in a way. It doesn't have to be dirty. It doesn't have to be gross. It's something for us. You know what I'm saying? But I do have some gross jokes as well. So I don't know if that answers the question.
No, that totally, that's more than enough. It's interesting how people are afraid to do metaphors or something, and it's like it doesn't have to be like you say. It doesn't have to be gross out. It just has to be kind of like, oh, see what I did there,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, so it's been good. Comedy's taken me a lot of places. I mean, when I started comedy, I had left Florida only 2 times in my entire life. I was a Florida boy, I was married here, kids here, owned a house here, and since then I've seen a good chunk of the country, and the Bahamas, obviously, and been all kinds of places now. So it's been pretty awesome.
That's cool. And uh, so uh, how many clubs do you recommend most people kind of just go out and tour? Especially because you never know about the traffic is different every night. You want to go often when it's busier on another night, or when there's a certain kind of crowd expecting certain kinds of humor. But how do you recommend others map it out other than just test out the waters?
What are you talking about? People going to watch comedy?
Yeah. Just just like for those getting into stand up, how do you recommend like they figure out which crowds they should try and uh I'm not saying go ahead and play Russian roulette with, but like just try and just figure out like this is probably the most ideal crowd for me to perform in front
Oh, there's no way to figure that out.
of.
If you're gonna be a comedian, you just go tell jokes. This is what I tell people because every single show you get at least 5 people. Oh, I would love to be a comedian. I just don't know how to start. You just
That's
do it. You literally just do it, dude. Like my first show was at a tattoo parlor.
oh
My
wow.
buddy's like, yeah, he goes, oh, there's an open mic at this tattoo parlor. They did everything. They did music, poetry, and comedy. and they would literally like I literally just went up there and did it and never stopped doing it. I mean, people people including myself with a lot of things, we forget the whole way to do things is just to do the things. There was a guy who was like, I wonder what would, is there something we could roll on, and then he made a wheel. You know what I'm saying? You just have to do it. And it's the same with comedy. You can't eventually you'll be able to pick and choose your crowds, but for the most part, you just have to get on the stage and learn how to work them out. I think that's why Florida's a great place to start comedy, especially, and to work out at comedy because we have such a variety of people here. And then not only that, pretty good amount of times you get thrown a whole room full of elderly people,
That's cool.
and they're retired from across the United States. So you have to be able to take a room full of people who all came from different places. They're all
Yeah.
from different backgrounds. They've all lived a full life, and you have to make them laugh. So if you can do that, you can primarily make anybody laugh, except for college students. They're a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. I and I'm not trying to damn all college students, but it's at different events. I would see so many people I was intrigued by, like from poets to other public speakers to even colorful comedians or politicians, and I was like, see, but they came here and look at how they're talking and everything, and I would see people just kind of just rudely texting on their phone in the back. I'm like, you do know you're not even supposed to have that on, right?
Well, I think if we could, how old are you, by the way?
I'm in my 30s, but I
In your 30s. So yeah, so
I've had appreciation for all eras, especially of comedy. But it's just interesting when you see kind of a lack of just can't go anywhere without just throwing my head into my phone, and it's like, really? Why?
the phone's a big issue, but I think also, when you're talking about college students and younger people, when you're young like that, you just didn't, you don't care. You don't. It's about you. You haven't really got the wisdom of the world yet behind you. So and then also let's say I'm up there telling comedy to someone who is 21. All right, man, the difference, the gap of my knowledge and their knowledge. Not saying that I'm smarter, but my knowledge is different. I know I'm referencing the '90s and the early 2000s and up to this point, and a lot of the thing from the '90s and early 2000s, they don't even know. They don't even know it existed. You know
Right?
that if that one, the Amelia Earhart joke. You know how many people don't even know who the hell Amelia Earhart is?
I'm seeing that. I'm seeing people even discover comedians who are kind of bigger now. I hate to say this now that they passed. Like Mitch Hedberg's kind of trended a lot, and now with our political climate, I'm seeing people try to misinterpret jokes. I'm like, no, no, no. Rewriting a joke does not work. Listen to what he's saying. Look at a write up on it if you're in doubt, but don't misinterpret the joke to mean something else.
That happens all the time, man. Yeah,
It does, but it's just like,
yeah.
well, what are we trying to do here, man? Just laugh or don't. Shoot.
With me, it's I do fat material, obviously, but
Yes.
so I do a section of the fat material in the middle, and the whole section is pro fat. It's like, because I'm a guy, I just believe if you're fat, you chose that lifestyle. Now live it. Be that person.
That's true
And,
too. Don't be
and
ashamed.
don't be ashamed. If you don't want to be fat anymore, then don't be. Because
Chocolates and
we all
cheese are my
know.
drug. I'm not
Yeah,
ashamed.
exactly. So I should be able to. But at the same time, I want to say I can live that life, and people shouldn't shame me and tell me constantly I need to lose weight and tell me constantly these diets they're doing. And I just don't want to hear.
I,
Nobody goes up to a. I say a lady could walk in on all fours and say she's a dog, and we'd all be like, "Oh, you're a dog. Look at you. You're a little doggy. Oh, you pooped on the floor." But then she could look at me and go, "Rough. You need to lose weight." You know, I say, so Bruce could be Caitlin, but I can't be fat. This is bullshit. So it's like, so I do this whole fat thing, and it's pro fat about how we need bigger chairs, all these things. It's not fair they're making us fat, but they're not giving us the infrastructure for it. And
that's true
and that
too. Everything is systematic.
Oh, it's crazy. So they're making us all these bigger people, but they're not making bigger things for
Isn't
anybody.
it
You
funny?
know?
I wonder how much you wanted to work this into your material. Isn't it such a hoot how half the time the person telling someone they got to do a life change is all just as unmovable. They're the do as I say, not as I do kind of person.
I met a lady. She told me this is after I did the whole thing about let me be me, and I seen her out there applauding during the whole thing, right? And then after the show, she comes up and she's like, "You really should think about losing weight." Meanwhile, she's got these
Wow.
giant Botox lips. Her face is pinned back to her ears. I'm like, honey, you look like a weird science experiment. It's like, why are
Good.
you judging me for me? All that is, and I've just learned it, is all that it is insecurities of themselves, and
Exactly.
they want to push it on you. You know,
Yep.
It's like,
It shows me in a bad light, so therefore I better tell other people so they can cover up my imperfections. I can hide
yeah,
in
I
the
mean,
crowd.
sometimes I look at myself and I go, maybe I should lose some weight, and then I think about all the things I would have to do that, and I go, yeah, no, I'm good. So I just learned to live with this. I'm okay with this. I sometimes I think, oh yeah, maybe slim down a little bit, but man, I went to the gym right before our wedding and I lost a bunch of weight. This was 20 years ago. And I seen enough old man balls at that gym to last a lifetime, bro. And I just can't do it again. I, man, I can't do the naked old men again, man. I just can't do it,
I hear you.
bro. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I used to like get a home gym. I had a home gym
I
once. It just held
hated
it held
going.
clothes.
I hated going to this one gym because I kid you not, like certain people, as soon as I walked in, would just start looking at me. I'm like, uh, do you want an autograph, buddy?
Oh yeah,
Why are you looking down lower?
that's what they're there for. They're there to see you in the nude, and they hang out in the locker rooms. Some of the dude, one time I was had my body facing the locker rooms. There's a mirror like off to the right, and I look in the mirror, and there's a guy looking me dead in the eye in the mirror, butt naked, flossing with a towel between his junk. And I was like, I can't come here anymore. I'm like, I'm
Yep.
just gonna have to, And then, so then I tried just like working out and getting in my car, but then my car stunk all the time. As you
Hmm.
get in there all sweaty. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna be fat. I was like, I'll just be fat and just be happy. It's like whatever. It's the Buddha was fat, Santa Claus was fat. I mean, I am Christian. Jesus wasn't fat, so that kind of hurts me sometimes. But that's
uh,
yeah.
so, uh, but that was some other kind of very truth in there. Yeah, it's talking about insecurities, talking about just life changes, and even just let's say it's not even a exercise or food mentality. It's also interesting when you see people who kind of just want to just make everything a big deal, and it's like, well, yeah, unless you want something to come from this whole conversation has been a waste of your breath. It's like people don't know how to be
Yeah.
constructive and mix comedy into it.
Yeah, they don't people you're right about people don't know how to be constructive, and I think a lot of that just comes from, hate for self, because when you sit back and you dislike yourself internally, which a lot of us do, we don't even let the world know that we're doing it, and we dislike ourselves, we hate ourselves, we can never move forward, we can never move past. So that comes out in ways of them lashing out at you and making you want to change, and then and never being able to move past. You know what I'm saying? Until you can like yourself, until you can stop hating yourself, you're never going to get wisdom. You're never going to get that mindset of, okay, I can move past all of this. I say move past the past. you know
It's past tense.
Yeah, can we move past the past? Because everyone wants to sit in their mind and hate on themselves, and then that hate boils out into the world, and they never get wisdom. The first step to wisdom is learn to love yourself, and once you can
Right?
do that, all that fog goes away, and you can actually start growing as a person. So
It's like half the time people don't want to just grow in general.
no, you know what? I think maybe they do want to grow, but they don't have the right tools and they've never been helped, and just in their mind, like I said, when you dislike yourself, you're never going to let yourself grow. you know
True.
You're just gonna beat yourself up constantly. I mean, the person, unless you're a narcissist, then you have your own issues. But every other person is just beating themselves up constantly, and it's gonna happen. There's days where you just get down on yourself, but you have to move past that in order to become better. So
Right.
if we could all just forgive ourselves, we'll be able to forgive everyone else too.
Hmm. Yeah, forgiveness is definitely a thing that kind of goes in stages where it's like, okay, well, what do you want to do?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, how many times have you been like, "Oh, I'm stupid. Ah, damn, I hate myself."
Yeah,
Like why did I do that? We think about stuff in the past, and that it clogs everything. It's unnecessary, and you can't see straight until you get rid of that. So I don't know. I don't know if we're just gonna keep talking about that. I don't.
no, it's fine. We do this in stages. But so uh, when you write down jokes, do you have any recommendations for how to kind of document your jokes for anyone else who has ideas but doesn't know how to organize themselves?
Well, like I said, I don't write anything down, man. I just write it all in my head. You know, I I write down. So if a joke is set in stone, and that is definitely going to be a joke in my set, I write it. I write a name of it. I create a name for the joke, and I put it down in a notebook.
Nice. Okay.
And that's just so if I ever do need to write out a set list, I can kind of pull from that notebook and just write down a list of what I want to do. Uh, so I mean, but short of that, I really don't. I really wish I did write a little better. I wish I would sit down and write out each one.
Hmm.
I suffered from dyslexia when I was a kid, so writing is still just like very difficult for me. It's not even like I have nice handwriting now, and I work a job where I'm constantly filling out paperwork and all this. I could do it. It's just like it gets my mind gets jumbled with it, and then I hate the joke, and then and it's less of a hate of joke and more of a hate of self. Like I just like get frustrated with my lack of punctuation and things like this. So when I read the joke back, I don't see it like it was in my head. You know.
Right.
So that's why I just kind of write in my head. I mean, I have a full hour ready to be recorded right now that I wrote in my head, and I could recite it to
Sweet.
you and perform it right now. You know what I'm saying?
That's
So
good.
yeah, and
Well,
I've already put down 2 half hours that I don't use any longer. So
eh, do you think some of us just we cling to these jokes to where they're just like having a photographic memory, like they're ingrained in our mind, while others you want to practice a few times just to get the hang of it?
yeah, yeah, and what's funny is that sometimes I'm really bad about it. Like I enjoy writing the joke,
Hmm.
and once I wrote it and it's working like phenomenally, a lot of times I just throw it away. It's still there, it's written in the notebook, but I move on because there's only like I mean, on a good night, if I'm headlining, I have 60 minutes. Most night you have 50 minutes, and a lot of times you have 45, and then if I'm featuring, I have 20 to 25.
Hmm.
There's just not enough time. There's not enough time. It's unfortunate because it's how I write a joke is on stage. So there's not enough time to write the new jokes and do these old jokes. So once a joke is working properly, I usually put it on the back burner, and then I pull it out at whenever I have time to do it. I've written so many jokes that are just sitting in a notebook as a name of a joke. You know, and you could just my son does it to me all the time. He'll just point at a name and a thing, and I just recite the joke to him.
Sweet.
But yeah, but it's just sitting in there. I mean, some really nice jokes, and they never even get told. People come to me and they go, "How come you don't tell this joke anymore?" Yeah, well, I'm trying to write other jokes.
I've moved
So
on. I thought it was funny then. I don't find it funny anymore.
I still always find them funny. I find them all
Oh,
funny. So
okay.
it's because if it makes the notebook, it's literally been worked out for months.
All right.
It started as a joke that wasn't. Sometimes you get them right away and they're amazing, but usually it starts as a joke that's just okay. It's a premise, and I'm throwing stuff at the wall, seeing what sticks with people, and then adjusting and moving and adjusting and moving and adjusting. It usually takes about 3 months to get a joke like really, really fire. And then once it's fire, it's done. I don't. I don't need to mess with it again. And until later, I'll bring it back and I'll perform it better, and then I'll throw a couple extra tags in it. This is like an ongoing, endless process. If you're not writing every single day, you're not doing it. Because what happens is, like you talked about, the guys that are stale, they're coming through, and it's the same guys doing the same jokes, and they've already made their money, and they're just going through the motions, getting a paycheck, you know.
Yeah,
And
it's too overstaged.
yeah, and I've never looked at it as a paycheck. If I wanted to have endless money, I would just keep plumbing. I made so much money plumbing.
Hmm.
I own my house outright, in Florida. So it's
There you
like
go.
I've done pretty good for myself plumbing, but so comedy's never been like that thing. Like when I said I lost $8,000 the second year, it didn't even bother me. It's not that I had all this money, because I didn't. I mean, I had money, but it just didn't bother me because I didn't care. I only cared about telling the jokes, and as long as you keep that fire, and I learned that from these older guys. I see these guys, man, they're burned out, they're done. They could give two shits about doing comedy, and they just come out and they do it because it's a paycheck, and that's just what they've been doing for the last 30 years. But they honestly just don't even like it anymore, because to them, they wanted to be rich, they wanted to be the star, they wanted to be the Bill Burr, they wanted to be these things. I've never really, although it would be wonderful, I've never really had that,
Hmm.
like where I just, I'm not chasing fame, I'm not chasing money, I'm chasing happiness. I just want to be happy and
Good point.
love what I do.
Love it in the moment.
Love it in the moment, love it all the time. Love that when I get to sit down with and just think about jokes. It's funny because I'll sit in front of a piece of paper and never write anything, but I'm writing jokes the whole time. It's in my head, So,
Very
but for
cool.
some reason, sitting in front of the piece of paper helps. So I don't know. But I just don't. I do it for that. I forget the
That's
initial
cool.
question. Yeah.
Uh, Altogether, would you say that uh, technology has kind of spoiled us a bit, like in terms
Like
of coming up with
just in
material, or just
oh, like just in general as anything, or just as in comedy?
yeah, like I'll see people who are like, I had never had any interest, but now that TikTok's a thing, as they're right and
Yeah,
everything, it just seems like we're a little more distant. People are worried about, like you say, clicks versus content substance.
yeah. Well, I mean, the TikTok thing is weird because, like, I know a lot of guys who are really great, like Quinn Dale. Have you ever heard of Quinn Dale?
No,
Very
but
funny comedian. He's
I'm
like
down.
blowed up on TikTok. But what's funny is the way he writes a joke, it takes him a long time to write a joke. He has tons of jokes. Been doing it for a very long time. He's done Comedy Central and things like this. But he started on TikTok, and his jokes are perfect for it. They're one-liners, kind of, very set up, a little bit edgy, but not super edgy. And he just blew up
Hmm.
on there. But then they
Sweet.
come out, and the people from TikTok come to his shows, and they're like, "Oh, we heard that one on TikTok already."
Eh,
He's like, "Yeah, I know. These are my jokes." So I mean, it is what
I'm sorry
everyone
you heard it.
knows.
You're gonna keep hearing it.
Yeah, you're gonna keep hearing. I'm sorry you heard it, but yes, these are the jokes. It took me a decade to write this hour, and now I put it all on TikTok, and now you guys are like, I need new jokes, and he's just like frantically trying to write these new jokes, but it takes him a long time. He's a perfectionist, so each joke takes so much time for him to write. You know,
Right?
so yeah, and that way, technology is definitely, and everybody's a 1 minute world. They need it in 1 minute. Is it good in 1 minute?
In it to win it. Yeah.
Yeah, you got 1 minute to win it, and that's it. If it isn't good, then it's good. Uh, and social media is the most pain in the butt thing to me. I only do Instagram right now.
Yeah,
I was
I'm
trying,
finding better clicks on there too.
yeah, I was trying to do everything, and I just, man, I don't like TikTok. I just don't like it. I don't know why. Maybe it's my age group or something. I'm just not a fan of it. It's just like
Well,
constant manja, manja, manja,
and
manja.
it's gonna be replaced eventually by something else.
Yeah, exactly. And
But
then
that's just it. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's got to be now, now, now." It's like you sound very impatient, guys.
that's why I like Insta. I think Insta is more my age group, my demographic, so
Yeah, I definitely get more clicks there versus Twitter, which seems to be hot take number 1 through 5. I'm like, okay, and
yeah, I don't do Twitter at all. I don't do Twitter. I just find
now
it
it's
very annoying.
X. It's like, who came up with that?
I have no idea. I don't. I try to mess it. I'm on Facebook, and I think I'm gonna start doing YouTube. It seems like YouTube's not going anywhere.
Right?
So I think it'd be smart to do that. We were actually thinking about my son. We do a lot of videos. I don't know if you've seen them on there, like promotional videos with my family in it and everything.
I think I saw
Uh,
one, but not all of
yeah,
them.
we've been doing those for years, and so I was talking to my son and my wife about maybe putting together like a small show where it's just a
Hmm.
4 minute show every week. You get 4 minutes of episode, 5 minutes of episode, and it just continues on. So it's almost like a rolling soap opera type situation.
It really
So
is,
we're
yeah.
yeah, so we're thinking about doing something like that. We've been writing that, and it's nice when my wife's involved because she has a college degree and all these things, so I can just dictate to her and she'll actually put it down on the computer. So
That's cool.
yeah, it works out. It works out like that.
Very neat.
Yeah.
Anything that, else that's upcoming that you'd love to promote?
Just check me out at Open Bar. Open Bar Comedy. That's
Sure.
it's not Dry Bar. It's Open Bar, and it's on YouTube. I actually have a special that just dropped there about a month ago. And some of the clips you'll see, that's some of the clips I'm putting on Instagram. But yeah, the Open Bar Comedy special has been it's been awesome. It's funny because that shot almost a year and a half ago, and now I watch it and I'm like, man, I perform these jokes so much better now. You know, it's just like a
Sweet.
couple of them I kept, but I've dropped a bunch of them out of the set just because now they're on tape. So.
Right. Don't
Uh,
want to be too
but
predictable.
yeah, if people are seeing it online, it's the Quindale thing. If people are seeing it online, then they're gonna want new material when you come and actually see it. And
Hmm.
so just I probably wrote. I was in the Bahamas for that 2 weeks, and I wrote about 15 minutes while I was there, and about 9 of it is working really well. So I'll continue to use that 9, and then try to write another 9 and another 9. It's it. Usually I'll write probably about 20 minutes of jokes when I get on like a writing binge, and then I'll write the 20 minutes of jokes, and usually about 10 minutes work. Usually, it's pretty
Sweet.
normal. Yeah, yeah, and you're right. Because that's why I write so many. Because if I write 10, that means only 5 are probably gonna work. Or maybe I write 5 minute joke, only 2 minutes of that's gonna work. you know. So
Right.
pretty regular. Yeah.
Do you ever time any of your skits?
Yeah, I mean, I have. I think every comedian has a general idea of what each one takes, because you'll get maybe you get in a ramble and you look down at your watch and you only have a minute left. Well, what do you do to fill that minute? You know, you kind of have to have a pretty good idea of how long your jokes take, and almost every single one of them. If you don't have an idea, I know when we're doing it up there, but every single comedian's away. It looks like we're just telling the jokes and we're just moving right along, but part of our brain is thinking of completely other things. One part is performing, and one part is going, okay, I need to do this. It looks like I have about 2.5 minutes left. I'm
Hmm.
gonna have to do this. We're like, oh, you know what? They didn't really like that one, so let's lead up into this. They didn't like the dirtier jokes, so let's scratch the second part that we were gonna do, and let's add this, and this. Oh wait, but I only have 4 minutes, so let's scratch that one joke, and then I'll put this in. You know, and so in every single comic's doing that. Literally, why they're telling you the jokes, they're thinking about what's next.
Right.
It's a very weird. I can't do it in any other process. Like, I can't do it anywhere else in my life. But in comedy, I'm able to some reason split my brain and think about both things.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's especially when you're hosting, because you'll be in the last 5 minutes. For me, I don't know if everybody does this, but I'll be in the last 5 minutes of my set and I'm telling the jokes, and I'm sitting there reciting the next comic's credits and name also in my mind, so just making sure that I have that all set
Hmm.
for when I'm about to finish this joke in a minute and
When
a
it
half.
gets real.
Yeah, exactly. So
It's
I
happening.
guess it's happening. I forgot people's names. A buddy of mine, Matt Price, who was a great magician comedian, he actually ended up dying. He went to L.A. and got hit by a stray bullet in a robbery and
Oh
died.
my lord.
Yeah, it was definitely a bummer, man. He was from here. He's a very nice guy. But I'd known him about a year, and I was hosting, and I was bringing him up to the stage. And for some reason, I had forgot his last name. It was Matt Price. It just blanked on me. And so I go, Magic Matt, and then some lady's like, have him say his name. So I put the mic out and he shakes his head no. And so I give him the mic. He gets up on the stage. He does this like hand trick and then pulls a tennis ball out of his mouth. And he goes, my name's Matt Price. He had a tennis ball in his mouth. That's why he couldn't say his name. And I had known this guy for a year, man. That was embarrassing. Did I lose you?
No, I'm here. I just
Oh, okay.
I find that interesting though that it goes in stages of figuring out like remembering the person's name, let alone then committing it to memory, and then it gets even more confusing when you got all these other just nicknames everyone has.
Yeah, exactly. So you're trying yeah, I mean, you get, so like especially when you're hosting. When you're hosting, man, yeah,
Yeah,
there's a lot of material. People treat hosting like it's any other comic job, but it's not. That is a job. When you're hosting, your job is to make that show run smoothly, and I think a lot of people forget that when they host.
hmm,
You make sure that everybody's on time. You make sure everything goes smoothly. You get the
right. You're
transitions.
early or you're late.
Yeah. You do all these things. I mean, it's your job to keep the show moving. That's why I really personally think, and a lot of comics think this way, that the host should always be a veteran comedian. But that's not how it is. The host is always the low man on the totem pole. You know,
Right.
but if you have a really good veteran comedian as the host, the show is so much better for everyone, including the crowd,
And then they
because
want to
it's fun.
raise to their level.
Exactly. It's funny from the beginning. Now the feature has a already warmed up crowd. They're ready to laugh. And then the headliner gets brought up properly, and now boom, the show's off to the races, and it's one of the most amazing shows whenever they have a good headline or a good host. I actually, now that I'm headlining a lot, I get paid more to host. So like hosts usually get about $25 to $50, if not just a free meal. But
Right.
but I get
What do
paid
you
like,
want? A free McDonald's, some extra
yeah,
pickles.
it happens. I mean, a lot of places just feed you a free meal to host. That's what you get. And but now people have been paying me $200 to host shows because they want it to be a really good show, so they call me to be the host. You know,
Sweet.
or yeah. So it's been really nice. I never mind hosting, so that's great for me. I did it, like I said, I did it for my whole first year. Was at the Laugh-In. I just hosted 5 shows a week for a year.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. I'm.
yeah.
It seems like again the sky's the limit, and you're keeping up positive energy, which is just very neat to see and hear. Uh, any other tips and tricks that you recommend for those just getting up in the morning? Just
Just for
like,
anyone just getting up in the morning.
yeah, like what am I going to do with my world and everything, and how to look at the life in just a funnier way.
Yeah. I used to get up like crazy. I used to just jump right out of bed and be like, "Yay, the sun's shining! Let's make this day." But now I wake up a little achy, because I'm getting older. So I wake up. But as far as making your sun shine every day, I don't really know how I do it. I'm just like anyone else. I get sad and things like that. But I would say the one thing that you have to do every single day is try to push for the person that you want to be. Try to push for the things you want to be. If you're in a place where you don't like it, where you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh my God, I have to go to this job again.
Yeah, if you
Find,
don't want to go there
find
again.
it.
Yeah.
Find the other things, man, because there's so many things to do and we get stuck in this place, and our employers make us stuck in the place. Our employers don't want us to leave. So they create this world
Right.
where it feels like we can't leave. But man, there's
Customer's
so many
always
things
right.
out there.
Crud, yeah.
There's so many things out there to do, and if you really just push for what makes you happy, I can almost guarantee you're gonna find it. You're gonna find it. You just have to go out there and push the fear away. Maybe that's, you know what? Now that we're talking about it and you've asked the question, I think that's the key to waking up and being happy, is just push that fear. The fear leads to anger. The fear leads to hate.
There you
Fear
go,
leads to
Yoda talk.
self-loathing.
Yeah.
I'm serious. I know. I guess that is very Yoda. It is very Yoda.
Fear you must not have. Yeah.
Fear you must not have. If you can keep the fear out of your life, I think you'll go so much further, because with that fear is what holds you in that bad job. That fear is what holds you in that bad relationship. The fear is what makes you keep hanging out with the friends that just aren't actually your friends, because you're scared that you'll never find anybody else. So if you can get that fear out of your life, you will be able to thrive and grow and
so true.
And just
I would
amazing.
see people who were like a heart attack away from just fear of just being late, and it's like you don't need that every day. That builds up into stress.
Yeah, I mean, people will work their whole life away, and you'll go, why don't you just quit that damn job? Oh, I couldn't quit that job. Then what do I do? You know, like, oh, what I would, you would just find another job. You know, it's like you would find another thing to do. You know, for so long, I searched. I would tell my best friend, he's who I work at the plumbing company with now, and we've been best friends since we were 15.
Nice.
And I used to tell him every day we'd be plumbing, and I would go, this is not the job for me. I go, this is not who I am. This is not what I'm supposed to be.
Right.
I didn't know what I was supposed to be. I didn't know I was supposed to be.
But you didn't sign up for this particular gig.
Yeah, I didn't sign up for this, but what I did, I still did it for 16 years before I ever got the courage to change it. You know, before the strength and the courage to change it. Don't wait the 16 years, people. Just go out and find your thing. And the next thing you try might not be the thing either. You might quit the thing that you hate, move on to another thing that you hate. Right. But if you've done it once, move again and keep moving till you find your thing. Get rid of the hate for yourself, create self-wisdom, and then find the thing that makes you happy.
Bingo. That's a great way to close it out, man. That's very eye-opening. So for those on Instagram, how can they find your Instagram handle? Yeah,
I'm at Nathan Stands Up on Instagram. Actually, I'm Nathan Stands Up across the board. You can find me on all things Nathan Stands Up.
Sweet.
So
check him out. He's just a very clever guy, guys, and we need more wit like this.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Anytime.
Well, thanks for having me on. You have a good day.
Anytime.
We'll return after these messages.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, give it up, Jimmy. You got to sink this putt to win. On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world, and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast recs and foodie debates. Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in. It's Brentfast time. Listen at Brentfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
Do you ever find yourself thinking about who would win in a fight between Goku and Superman? Hi, I'm James Gavsey, and on the Who Would Win show, me and my co-host Ray ignore anything important happening in the outside world and debate fictional battles between characters from comics, movies, and video games.
We got a new show every week, and almost always am I the winner.
Yeah, not true, Ray.
In the past, we've discussed such matches as Captain America versus Darth Vader, Solid Snake versus the Iron Giant, classic matchups like RoboCop versus Terminator, and even the Muppets versus Sesame Street.
That one was crazy. So if you're a fan of geek culture and love a spirited debate, check out the Who Would Win show wherever you get your podcasts, or check us out at whowouldwinshow.com.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up